Welcome back to Piers Morgan Uncensored. Still with me is Imarn Ayton, Richard Tice and Trisha Goddard. I left you on a cliffhanger, a tease of all teases. We'll play it again now, just to remind you, in case you missed it.
I watched you yesterday and the day before. I watched you be gaslit by two ignorant black women. I actually felt quite sorry for you. So I want to say, welcome to the club, Piers Morgan. How does it feel to be gaslit when claiming something is racism? How does it feel? It's annoying, right? It's annoying.
Well, Trisha, here's your chance to respond. This was, of course, about our quite fiery debate in which I got very exercised about the fact that Meghan and Harry, for 2 years, led the world to believe that the palace had been racist about the skin colour of their baby. And then they decided to turn around and say, actually, we never meant that at all, which I thought was deplorable. You defended it, and that was Imarn's verdict on your defence. I was basically getting gaslit. What's your response?
Not so much the gaslit bit, but I guess Imarn and I would have to agree to disagree. I wouldn't call anybody ignorant just because they don't agree with my point of view. And I don't think it's helpful, especially when we're discussing something like racism, and you know, one black person calling another person ignorant because they don't agree. That I find sad. I'm saddened by that, and you know, so I'm not going to pick a fight with Imarn about that because I've seen that happen you know, I've worked in the media for 35 years. I know how that game's played. So that would be my only comment. She's entitled to her view. You're entitled to your view. I'm entitled to my view. But I actually think it's quite disgraceful to label someone ignorant purely because they don't agree with you.
So it's not acceptable to call someone ignorant, but you can call them disgraceful. Imarn?
Well,
no, I said doing it is disgraceful.
Well, it's the same thing, isn't it? It's the same thing. You just called it disgraceful.
I'm saying...
Imarn, you're disgraceful for calling Trisha ignorant.
I think it's...
Well, Trisha, we just heard you. You just said she was disgraceful.
Exactly.
So let her answer the charge of being a disgrace.
I didn't say she was disgraceful.
OK, Imarn, you're a disgrace for calling Trisha ignorant.
I think I'm awesome, personally, so I just want to throw that out there. Secondly, I never called you ignorant because you didn't agree with my opinion. I called you ignorant because you have a lack of knowledge. There's a clear difference, and it was never about a view. It's about just understanding facts. And when we talk about unconscious bias, that's based on feeling. That is a fact, Trisha. So it's not about me and you disagreeing as two black women. I'm going to call you ignorant in spite of your colour if you have a lack of knowledge. Simple as that.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, Trisha, come on, you've got to answer the charge. It was basically your ignorance as in lack of knowledge of the subject you were talking about.
If somebody decides that I'm ignorant, I'm not going to sit here and try to dissuade them otherwise. They've quite clearly made up their minds. If Imarn wants to call me ignorant and thinks of me as ignorant, what have you, fine, go ahead.
Trisha, you did a lot of damage that day. You did a lot of damage and I had to come along and fix it. Just like Harry did a lot of damage and other people had to come along and fix it. Me, Shola, Kiande, we had to come along and fix your dirty work. So you know what? I don't have time for people like you when you come on national TV spewing garbage. And you're right. I'll actually add to your second point. I don't want to argue because I'm a bit more... In fact, I don't believe black women should come onto TV arguing, so I'll just leave it at that. I called you ignorant because of your lack of knowledge. It kind of ends there, basically.
I mean, Trisha, what I would say as the token white man in this debate is I would say this about what happened last week. I was surprised, actually, that you, with all your experience in broadcasting and journalism, you're a smart person. Even you, when you heard Harry basically gaslighting the world by saying, it was the media that said that this was racism. We didn't say that. And then you literally watch back exactly what they said to Oprah Winfrey, and they were blatantly accusing a senior member of the royal family of being racist about their unborn child's skin colour. I was surprised that you couldn't find it in yourself, notwithstanding your support for them, but as a black woman, to understand the damage that did in playing the race card as strong as they did to Oprah Winfrey, and then expecting 2 years later we would all just sit back when they go, we didn't mean it as racism, and we'd all go, oh, that's all right then. After 2 years of incessant headlines around the world calling the royal family racist because they had called them racist.
I have to actually, with that, agree with Richard Tice, my colleague Richard Tice, in saying that when, Richard, you were right, if it hadn't been Oprah Winfrey, if it had been a British interviewer, I think a British interviewer would have challenged them on that and got them actually to say the words. My whole thing was that they didn't, as Susanna, your old colleague, agreed, they didn't actually say the words. And the reason they didn't, I don't think, is because they'd actually said the sentence, they probably would have been sued or God knows what. So my whole argument was they didn't actually say the words.
Yeah, but hang on, Trisha, hang on. As I said to you last week, the key line to me, the key line in that whole thing with Oprah was when Oprah did actually follow up with one and said, are you saying that the concern was that if the baby's skin colour was too brown, too dark, that would be a problem? And she said, yes, basically, you may well think that.
Pretty safe assumption.
That was a direct charge of racism.
I would have pushed it further. I would actually say, I would have actually asked the question, are you saying that somebody in the royal family is racist?
Yeah, but I don't actually, look, I agree, and I would have done, but actually I don't think you needed to. I mean, Richard Tice, putting aside what side you're on of this debate, and look, there are lots of people who don't agree with me, I get it. But on that, I did feel completely incensed for the royal family that for 2 years they had to put up with this charge of racism against all of them because we never got told who it was that supposedly expressed this concern. And when you watch back that exchange with Oprah, it was unequivocal. Yeah. When you watched it back, she specifically said that it would be a problem if the baby's skin colour was too dark. Yes, was the basic answer.
No one had any doubt, and there hadn't been any doubt all over the world for 2 years until Harry's interview.
And in a 6-part Netflix series, they never corrected it.
And so everyone's left completely gobsmacked. And you're sort of wondering, what's Harry's objective here?
The agenda has changed. Sorry to cut you, but the agenda has changed.
So that's the point. So did he find himself...
Not one word about this in the book.
No, exactly.
Not one word.
It's as though he thought, I've gone too far here.
Right.
I need to somehow find a way to row back. Or let's just give a distraction and go down another route. There's so many inconsistencies in all of this. Frankly, it's impossible to know where to start or finish.
I think it was very damaging. You know, if I represented a group like Black Lives Matter, for example, and I'd been working really hard to try and drag people with, racist undertones about them into a world where they're not racist because you explain what racism is. To have a member of the royal family and his wife, two of them, on global television, branding the royal family racist and then basically saying that's not what we meant. I get why that would incense you. It would incense me.
I thought it was absolutely disgusting, and that's why, apologies for cutting you earlier, I just had to make this point about their agenda changing. I just want us to look at their journey for a moment. We watched them expose their truth. We like their truth. You see, I'm changing.
Right.
Expose their truth, defend themselves, and now they are on stage 3, which is about making amends. And so therefore each agenda requires a different approach. And so from another strategic standpoint, if you take off the most damning claim of them all, which is the racism claim by far. The reason why is because you have to remember it connects to the royal family potentially paying reparations, and you don't even want to think about what that number would potentially look
but
like.
I would also, Imarn, I would also add the other main charge, which I felt was incredibly damaging, was this allegation, direct allegation, that Meghan Markle felt suicidal and had gone to somebody at the palace seeking help and had been told she couldn't get it because it would be basically damaging for the brand. Again, not a word of that in the book. That's just disappeared like that never happened. We never got told who that palace employee was. For all we know, they might still be working there. Did they say that? Did they look at a woman saying, I'm suicidal, and say, you can't get help? I didn't believe it at the time. I don't believe it now. Not a word in the book. And this is, again, I think, a form of gaslighting on that issue.
Yes.
So you've got race and mental health were the two sticks to beat the royal family with, both of them now shattered in terms of any evidence.
I will not defend the indefensible. I know that people like Trisha and many others try. I'm not prepared to do it. Once I realise you're a liar, you're a liar. I will defend what I believe in, but once you've crossed that line, you've crossed that line.
Right.
That's a really good example of the contradictions. I hate to point out contradictions. I'm a big fan, or was a big fan, of both of them. But even the whole therapy thing, I mean, I could sit here and defend, for very long lengths of time, sit in conversations defending them. But the reality is they've contradicted themselves. They contradicted themselves when it came to the whole therapy thing.
I'm sorry, let's be clear. They're liars.
They've contradicted themselves,
They are
and
liars,
they've lied.
and they have lied on a global stage repeatedly and caused enormous damage. And I said this 2 years ago, nothing has changed my mind. In fact, if anything, the disingenuousness of the race charge being removed, the mental health stuff just disappearing and not being mentioned again, has all just confirmed to me I was right all along.
I mean, it's been concreted in stone, this lying, these inconsistencies. And you sort of wonder, where does it go from here? The only upside is that Clarkson's done the royal family a favour.
Yeah, and I agree with that point.
They have to maintain the moral high ground, say nothing, do nothing, send an invitation, but make sure through the back door they understand they're not to come.